favorite bookstore in town that my friends Jennifer and Victoria created.
I mean, I have embossers for my personal letters, my business. They're great.
I make hot breakfast most mornings for the kids and my husband. I'm not an artist, I didn't like art class.
I don't know who it's going to be for, but I know that I need to get it. It's called Furoshki. This is a masala daba, that's what this is called.
I always want to be able to share it with someone who would appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I loved being here. So glad I came.
So listen to this. Episode 3 of With Love. Meghan was supposed to be this warm, charming collab with Queer Eye's Tan France. But what actually played out? A cringe fest of epic proportions. 7 moments, yes, 7, where Meghan looked like she was clawing for celebrity validation so hard you could practically feel the desperation oozing off the screen. From the way she hyped up her special gifts to her fake little performances of cultural awareness, it was exhausting. Instead of letting Tan enjoy a casual, genuine time, she turned everything into a show, like she was auditioning for his friendship. You could almost see Tan clocking it too, his polite smiles, his "oh, that's nice" responses. It screamed, "Girl, please stop." By the end, it wasn't about bonding or connection. It was about Meghan performing, begging for Tan to see her as sophisticated, worldly, and worthy of his approval. Spoiler alert, it backfired. Let's break down how every single one of these moments turned into secondhand embarrassment. Moment 1, the bookstore name drop disaster. The first desperate attempt smacked us in the face right in the opening scene. Meghan's shopping for children's books, something that should have been sweet and simple. But nope, not her. She couldn't just say, "I got this book." She had to turn it into a full-blown performance about her connections and how culturally plugged in she is.
Come to my favorite bookstore in town that my friends Jennifer and Victoria created.
Did you catch that? She couldn't even say my favorite bookstore without throwing in the fact that her friends own it. Like Meghan, we get it, you know people. But she wasn't trying to just mention it casually. No, the whole emphasis on ownership was her screaming, "See, Tan, I'm surrounded by successful creative people too." And it didn't stop there. She actually made buying kids' books sound like it required expertise, like she was some kind of gifting guru.
A friend is coming and they have kids. One of the best gifts I think you can give is the gift of story.
That line, delivered like she was sharing deep life wisdom, when in reality, she's just picking up books. Watching it, you can't help but roll your eyes. She was desperate to package herself as thoughtful, cultured, and oh so sophisticated. But instead of being generous, it came off as performative.
Gotta start with It's Only Stanley, also because it looks like Guy.
And then the kicker, dragging her dog into it. The forced connection between a book character and her pup wasn't endearing, it was awkward. You could literally see her scrambling for ways to sound relatable and charming. The problem? None of it felt authentic. It was Meghan turning a normal act of kindness into a giant look-at-me moment. Instead of giving Tan a sweet gesture for his kids, she made it about her, her friends, her cultural awareness, her thoughtfulness, her personal charm. By the end of the segment, the desperation to impress was dripping from every word. Moment 2. Gift wrapping turned into a TED Talk. Next up, wrapping gifts. Now, wrapping should be simple, right? Not for Meghan. She turned it into a performance, complete with a whole philosophy about presentation. "I think half of the joy of the gift is the presentation," she said, delivered like it was groundbreaking psychology. Girl, everyone already knows that. And then came her dramatic unveiling, custom embossers.
And I had these embossers made online. They can be super affordable. These both say from the library of, and you can emboss the inside of their books.
She rolled those out like she was showing Tan some rare artifact. First, she bragged about how exclusive they were. Then, in the same breath, she tried to play it down like, "Oh, but they're also affordable." The contradiction was obvious. She wanted to look high-end and relatable all at once, but she didn't stop there. Meghan had to prove she wasn't just showing off for Tan. Oh no, she lives this embossed lifestyle all the time. "I have embossers for my personal letters, my business. They're great." This wasn't about gift wrapping anymore. It was about convincing Tan that she's refined, thoughtful, and consistently sophisticated. But instead of impressive, it screamed insecurity. The irony? Tan, as someone in fashion and entertainment, has seen custom details a million times. For him, this wasn't special. It was basic. Meghan thought she was dazzling him with luxury, when in reality, she looked like an amateur trying too hard. Moment 3. Breakfast theater. Now, this one was almost painful. Meghan decided to show off her domestic goddess side by making French toast. Cute idea in theory, but she couldn't just cook. She had to turn it into a brag fest about how every single day she whips up magical, nutritious breakfast for her family.
I make hot breakfast most mornings for the kids and my husband.
But it's not as complicated as people think it is. This is so easy.
She said it with so much pride, like making breakfast was an Olympic-level achievement. Then came the detailed pancake stories, complete with hidden healthy ingredients and charming kid anecdotes.
I always put some ground flax seeds
Oh, smart,
or some
yeah.
chia seeds in.
Yeah.
And Lily will ask me, can I have my chia seeds? I want it to have freckles.
The freckles story about her daughter. So obviously staged to show she's not only a great mom, but also raising little food critics with sophisticated palates. It was so calculated you could almost see her rehearsing it in the mirror. And then she layered on this big philosophy about presentation.
The thing I do with my kids, I will say that takes a little bit more time. I like the presentation.
She couldn't just make food look nice. She had to explain how it was part of her whole parenting strategy. It was exhausting. Instead of being warm and genuine, she turned breakfast into a self-promotion campaign about being the perfect mom. But here's the thing. Tan isn't the kind of guy who's wowed by overdone performances. He appreciates authenticity. And Meghan's desperate look-at-me breakfast routine was the opposite of authentic. This one had me cringing into my couch. Meghan turned what should have been a fun, lighthearted apron decorating session into a lecture about global craft knowledge. Yes, she tried to teach Tan France, a man who literally lives and breathes design, how to decorate with vegetables. It started off with her credentials. She couldn't just say, let's paint aprons. Nope. She had to establish herself as someone who knows both traditional and innovative art approaches, like she was some global craft historian.
Oh, can I show you a couple?
I would love,
a couple
yeah.
ideas here. Just bear with me. You're like, now the woman's getting some celery.
All right.
That little nervous laugh about getting celery said it all. She knew what she was showing was basic, but she dressed it up like she was presenting groundbreaking artistry. Watching her try to sell elementary school crafts as high culture was almost unbearable. Then came the contradiction. On one hand, she admitted she wasn't really an artist. On the other, she positioned herself as a teacher of these techniques.
Yes, but I would not classify myself as artistic. I'm not an artist. I didn't like art class.
Oh, okay.
I always did calligraphy, so I guess I had an eye for things, but I couldn't paint you a picture.
It was so awkward, like watching someone declare themselves a master chef and then confess they can barely boil pasta. And she didn't stop there. She trotted out potatoes and citrus fruits like she was unveiling revolutionary tools.
So we end up having a whole world of things we can do.
Seriously? Potato stamps? To Tan France? A man who's worked at the highest levels of global fashion? It was painful. The more excited she got, the more obvious it became that she was trying to pass beginner tricks off as expert knowledge. Instead of inviting Tan to share his professional insights, she cast herself as the authority. And that's where it flopped. She wasn't connecting, she was competing. Moment 5, the vintage gift manipulation. Now buckle up, because this was peak Meghan. The gift, the big moment. This wasn't generosity, it was manipulation wrapped in tissue paper. She set the stage with a dramatic backstory. According to her, she'd bought this special vintage piece a year ago, just knowing it would one day find the perfect recipient. Convenient, right? She wanted Tan and all of us to believe she had some mystical gift giver's intuition, but come on, the timing was just too neat. A year ago, she supposedly knew she'd meet Tan France and that he, of all people, loved spices. The whole story reeked of pre-planned manipulation. And then came the reveal. She didn't just give him the masala daba, she layered it with cultural terminology, context, and this faux deep explanation of why it was so perfect for him. It wasn't about the gift, it was about her looking cultured, thoughtful, and enlightened. The worst part? You could tell she was waiting, literally hanging for his emotional reaction. She needed the tears, the gratitude, the validation. But instead of intimacy, it felt transactional. Tan was polite, of course, but anyone watching could see through it. Moment 6, rapping as cultural appropriation theater. And just when you thought she was done with rapping, she pulled out another act, this time with a Japanese flair. Enter the furoshiki performance. She couldn't just rap a gift, she had to transform it into a cultural showcase. She said furoshiki with the kind of careful pronunciation that screamed, I rehearsed this 10 times in the mirror. And she made sure to highlight how a sophisticated friend had taught her, so she didn't just Google it, but then she dragged the whole thing into sustainability territory. Suddenly, furoshiki wasn't about Japanese culture anymore. It was about Meghan's progressive lifestyle choices. She reduced a centuries-old art form to a Pinterest-worthy eco-hack. And if that wasn't bad enough, she tossed in bargain bin shopping tips. Dollar store scarves? Seriously? At that point, it stopped being appreciation and started looking like appropriation. Instead of respecting the tradition, she cheapened it into a do-it-yourself project. What made it even more uncomfortable was knowing Tan would instantly see the difference between real cultural depth and surface-level performance. Meghan thought she was dazzling him with worldliness. Instead, she looked like a lifestyle blogger parroting buzzwords. Moment 7. The validation harvest at the beach. Finally, we hit the beach conclusion. The scene that was supposed to be the perfect ending. Spoiler, it was staged within an inch of its life. Picture it. Sunset timed to perfection, blankets arranged just so, refreshments laid out like a photo shoot. It wasn't relaxation, it was a set. And then came the fishing. She couldn't just let the evening be. She needed Tan to notice the effort, to comment, to shower her with praise. It wasn't hospitality. It was a trap for compliments, and when he didn't immediately gush, the pauses turned painfully awkward. She wanted him to declare this whole day special, to say their bond was real. But here's the truth. If you need to beg for validation, it's not real. Tan, ever the gentleman, gave her polite responses. But you could see it, he recognized the desperation. The validation harvest was the perfect bow on the package, an entire episode built not on friendship, but on a transaction. That's the big takeaway, and that's the real tragedy here. Episode 3 wasn't about connection, it was about performance. From the bookstore name drops to the final beach scene, Meghan was auditioning for approval, not building a bond. Her every move screamed, "See me, approve me, validate me." But here's the thing, Tan didn't need all that. He's kind, warm, and genuinely easy to connect with. If Meghan had just been herself, maybe they could have had an authentic moment. Instead, she suffocated it with overproduction and desperation. The saddest part? She didn't even realize how transparent it all was. To us. And to Tan, it was obvious. But to Meghan, she thought she was shining. So now the question is, which of these moments made you cringe the hardest? The fake domestic goddess routine? The manipulative vintage gift reveal? Or maybe that painful fishing expedition at the beach? Drop your thoughts below, because honestly, watching this was secondhand embarrassment at its peak. And if this episode was rough, trust me, episode 4 somehow makes this look subtle. Stay tuned.